The hearing on whether President Kenyatta will serve out his second and final term in office has started at the Kenyan Supreme Court. Now, the court will deal with 3 petitions. One of the petitions contends that the IEBC failed to conduct a fresh election in accordance with the dictates of the Constitution. In response, the legal team of President Kenyatta argues that fresh nominations were unnecessary because the Supreme Court only voided the declaration of the results of the August 8 presidential polls, but not the party primaries that preceded it.
Today is the first day of the hearings of the petitions filed here at the Supreme Court. Now, a 6-judge bench will determine whether Uhuru Kenyatta was validly elected on the 26th of October during the repeat presidential elections. Now, there are 3 petitions that have been filed here at the Supreme Court. 2 of them are against Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election, and one of them is seeking to have Raila Odinga and his running mate Kalonzo Musyoka found guilty for having withdrawn from the presidential race and also for the violence that happened during that October 26 elections. Now, in the petition filed by Harun Mwau, a former member of parliament, Mwau is seeking to have President Kenyatta's re-election nullified on the grounds that the Electoral Commission should have held fresh nominations immediately after the Supreme Court of Kenya nullified Uhuru Kenyatta's first re-election on the 8th of August. In the second petition filed by 2 human rights activists, they are seeking to have President Kenyatta's re-election nullified. The reasons they are giving for this is they say the minute Raila Odinga, the opposition leader, and his running mate Kalonzo Musyoka withdrew from the race, the Electoral Commission should have called for fresh nominations or cancelled the whole election together. They argue because the lack of Raila Odinga, one of the main opponents in the race, meant that a section of the country was disenfranchised. They also indicate that the violence that happened during the electoral day and forced the Electoral Commission to cancel elections in at least 25 constituencies left a section of the population disenfranchised, and they say it is because of police brutality that these people did not go to the polls. However, Uhuru Kenyatta in his response has said that he wants the whole petition thrown out, and he indicates that by withdrawing from the race, Raila Odinga wanted to throw the country into chaos, and he had expected that the election would be cancelled. He also indicates that even though Raila Odinga has not filed a petition himself, the human rights activists that have filed the case are actually filing on behalf of NASA, the opposition coalition. And so he says he was validly elected, and all that remains now is for him to be sworn in. The Electoral Commission, in its response, will be seeking to have the Supreme Court declare that Uhuru Kenyatta was validly elected and that the elections was held within the law and within the Constitution of Kenya. The Electoral Commission also wants the Supreme Court to give a go-ahead for Uhuru Kenyatta to be sworn in for his second and final term. So on Tuesday, what happened is that the court set the ground rules of engagement, and now beginning Wednesday, it will be the full hearing begins. Now, the court has until Monday, the 20th of November, to deliver its ruling. Should the court decide that Uhuru Kenyatta was validly elected, then within 7 days of the ruling, Uhuru Kenyatta will be sworn in for his second and final term. Should the court do what it did on the 1st of September this year, nullify Uhuru Kenyatta's election, it could either call for the recount of the ballots or declare that Uhuru Kenyatta was not validly elected and call for another election. Now, as was seen on the 1st of September this year, this is a court that is unpredictable, and anything is expected from the Supreme Court of Kenya. So we will be keeping you updated from here in Nairobi on every detail that happens right here behind me at the Supreme Court of Kenya. From Nairobi, I am Sarah Kimani for SABC News.